Hi, I'm Dr. Trites, and this is part 4 of a 5-part series, and this is genetics. So, the human aging process is tied to the function of the mitochondria. Previously, we talked about what mitochondria does, and it makes energy. And so, this is how you can modify inherited traits and live longer based on nutrition. So, what could this affect your genetics? High-intensity exercise, too much, too hard, work stress, life stress, relationship stress, money stress, bad diet has kind of a bigger influence, and then poor sleep. So genetics really kind of begins in the mitochondria. This is where cellular energy, or what's called ATP, is made. Without these, or without adequate energy, you age and die. Mitochondrial metabolism is key to aging. This came out years ago, and people really are only as young as their mitochondria. What feeds the mitochondria are products called CoQ10 and ubiquinol. Also L-carnitine. I haven't put that in there, but that's what activates those. So if you take a statin drug, so this is kind of a big deal right now because a lot of Americans are taking these, it drains things called CoQ10 in the body. So do several other medications, other blood pressure medications. And if you don't have enough CoQ10, regardless if you're taking a statin or not, you might have these symptoms: muscle pain, headaches, difficulty sleeping, fatigue, memory loss, diarrhea, constipation, nausea, vomiting, liver and kidney problems, nerve damage, infertility. Without that, you also get an increased risk of heart failure and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. So if you're on these, you need to take a CoQ10, or CoQ10 gets converted into ubiquinol. We typically use those, but we have a way to test in our office to find out which one you need and works best for you. So genetic factors determine susceptibility to disease. So if you have the genes that say, I can't fight off the flu, then you're going to get the flu. Environmental factors determine which genetically susceptible individuals will be affected. So if I live in a dump that has medical waste that goes in there, and there's mercury and other things, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have things that are turned off in my body, and I have the inability to fight off disease forms. And then nutrition is an environmental factor of major importance. If you have the right nutrition, especially for your genes, and I'll get into that a little bit later, probably in part 5 in very big detail, then this can slow down the effect that you have of degeneration and aging. So spontaneous mutation rate for nuclear DNA is really quite small, 0.5% over a million years. Assuming that you believe it's been here a million years, but this is just kind of what the numbers show. So our genes today are very similar to our ancestors, whether it's 5,000 years ago, however long the Earth has been along, and however long humans have been here, we're pretty close to the same as what they were from the beginning. Humans today live in a nutritional environment that differs from what was created a long time ago. So we have an industrial society, and our diets are a little bit different because we have an increase in calories from, I guess, if you're hunting and gathering, you don't get to hunt and you don't get to gather, you don't eat. We have access to it. We have this cool thing called a grocery store. We also eat an increase in cereal grains, which was only harvested at a certain point in time of year, and then you didn't eat it the rest of the year. We get extra saturated fat and this thing called trans fatty acids. That's actually not a good thing. So when you see that on there, it's bad. So we have a decrease in omega-3 fatty acid intake. We have a decrease in complex carbohydrates. Instead, we just eat sugar, which means we eat less fiber. And so we have a tendency now to not go outside and work. We work inside. And so we have less energy expenditure. And then because of our food options, we have a nutrient consumption decrease. So epigenetics, because of these things that were happening, and this will be part 5 of this 5-part series, was born, and it's the non-genetic mode of inheritance that influences our health. So most epigenetic regulated genes, and there's about 60 of those genes and 30 that we really focus on, they can be bound by chemicals, mainly this thing called methyl, and then that renders that gene inactive. And when you have a gene that's inactive, it doesn't make protein, and when it doesn't make protein, it doesn't make the enzyme, and the enzyme is what makes our body work. So things that are bound means it doesn't work. So the question has been, are we bound by our genetics or other factors? So if you can see this little pyramid here, 79% of our chronic disease are physiology or biochemistry, the environment in which we live, and our lifestyle. And this can be, any of those can fall into food choices. Genetics is really 10 to 30% of what we are. So even if you got a bad set of genes, you might have some chances to reverse and prevent proliferation of that particular process that might lead to a disease. So there are 4 things that age us, and it has to do everything about expressing the genes. Number 1 is oxidation. I just explain oxidation to people as rust. You have a chrome bumper, you put it in the right atmosphere, temperature, salt, water, and it will turn into rust. And then we do know what inflammation is. We talked about glycation and A1C in session 2, and then abnormal methylation, which I'll get into in detail in part 5. So there are other things that can influence you. I mean, you might be stuck in traffic, so exhaust, things that get into the air. You may decide you're going to paint at home. You might put some makeup or chemicals on your body. You might be, I don't think you're going to hang out in the sludge that's coming out of that pipe, but who knows? Who knows what you've stepped in? And this isn't just for women, but 26 seconds is all it takes for chemicals in a personal care product to enter your bloodstream. So we like to take a look at what's in your product from time to time, because some of these things could be really affecting your body, and it's almost preposterous how much chemical sensitivities that people have, or what the product has put in it. Let's say, I hate to use a buzzword, but there's a lot of gluten in these products. And if you have a gluten sensitivity and you put it on your skin, at 26 seconds it's in your body, but it also causes inflammation. So, yeah, please read your labels, because this is what's really going on. There are currently more than 286 or 87 toxic chemicals found in newborn cord blood. They haven't even come out to the world yet. That's just what is getting in through the environment, what we eat, what we drink. And of course, these are disruptors. So the world is saying, okay, well, it could be this that might be causing autism and dementia and whatnot. Well, when you have all these disruptors, even before life has had a chance to go out and breathe the air, we can always debate when life starts, but when the child breathes air, they are out on their own, and they already have these things in their system. They haven't even really had a chance to thrive. This creates epigenetic disruptors, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So back to oxidation, we talked about rust. What oxidation really is oxygen that mixes with other substances. So this process is naturally occurring. It happens throughout our body, but it's encouraged by extra stress, chemical exposure. So you might have even a medication can do this. Even the wrong supplements can do this. Overexercise, drug and alcohol use, and pollution. And free radicals are unstable molecules as produced as a result of oxidation. So that's why we don't want to necessarily oxidize. We want the body to be able to, what happens, manage it. So they bind to other molecules in the body and they cause damage to the DNA. When you have damage to the DNA, you don't make those proteins, and then you don't make the enzymes, and then you don't function properly. This accumulates over time. That's why we have this thing called aging. So free radicals contribute to the aging process and, of course, degenerative diseases. And then we take something to counteract free radicals called antioxidants. They are to protect our cells from the damage caused by the free radicals, and they interact and stabilize these free radicals and may prevent them from causing further damage. Sometimes you can even get it to reverse the damage. You might have heard of B6, B12, folic acid. And the reason I throw those out there is they're needed for the proper metabolism of homocysteine, which we talked about in session 1. Homocysteine ages the inside of our arteries. It also ages our brain. Thank you for your attention. If you want more information, contact us at our office or by email. This is Dr. Trites. Be well.